Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to a brand new ranking video here on Max Talks Movies. Before we get to the month of February in a couple of days, we're going to stop and rank all 8 new releases that I saw in the month of January. So if you're new to the channel, please subscribe, ring the bell. I do these type of rankings every single month, movie reviews, TV show reviews, and also on the channel dropping tomorrow and every single Monday, box office breakdown show. So please subscribe, ring the bell if you're new to the channel. Comment down below, what new releases did you see in the month of January? Let me know what your thoughts of them in the comment section down below by your ranking. I definitely missed a couple of films, I know, just because of my schedule got very busy. So this was the best I could basically do. 8 movies is still a lot for a month. And also please like the video, the thumbs up button. That's how you support this channel. Please do so. Before I get started with this video, I already have a playlist of all these movies together in a playlist of really 8 to 12-minute videos already breaking down the films in non-spoiler fashion. So if you want full movie reviews of these films, I'm just give my general thoughts of them in this video. So please go over there. At the end of the video, the playlist will pop up. All of these movies will be non-spoiler talks, and let's get started. So the worst movie that I saw in the month of January is Ice Age: The Adventures of Buck Wild. Just came out on Friday exclusively on Disney Plus, and I do not believe it was even close to a return to form for the Ice Age franchise, the first film under the Disney umbrella for the franchise, and a really bad animated film that does not bring anyone into this franchise. I think it's really bad. I don't think adults will get anything out of this film, and maybe even kids maybe get a touch out of it, but nothing too special. Simon Pegg's Buck Wild is the only returning cast member. They replaced Ray Romano, Dennis Leary, Lou Guizamo, Queen Latifah. I mean, they're all replaced in this movie. Other than Buck Wild being a fun enough character, he still isn't even the main character in his own titled movie. We go to these 2 annoying possums from the franchise that become basically the main characters. Very cliche plot. And this film felt like could have been a short film, because it feels like they stretched this runtime to 82 minutes, an hour. I mean, an hour and 21 minutes with credits. It felt like that was even too long for this movie. So a really bad experience on Disney Plus. This is a franchise that I never loved, but has gone completely downhill since the release of the first film 20 years ago. Number 7 was one of the theatrical releases I saw in theaters in the month of January, and that, not Scream, and that was the 355. I knew I was not going to like the 355 really heading in, just because of the marketing of the film, the fact that it's coming out the first week of January. Didn't really get me excited, but the cast is really good. And that's kind of the only rare positive about the film, is that this is truly an all-star cast. When you're talking about Jessica Chastain, Lupita Nyong'o, Diane Kruger, Penelope Cruz, Edgar Ramirez, Sebastian Stan. It's a really great cast that does the best with the material. One of the bigger problems with the film is, yes, the script is ridiculous. This is the type of MacGuffin in action films that you see. It feels like every single month in an action film, a device that will blow up the world. And villain and a twist on who the true villain was that you could see coming in the first 10 minutes of the movie. And it's just a film that, from a direction point of view and from a shot point of view, is really terrible. You can tell that the actors are giving it their all in their action scenes, and the choreographers and the choreography of the scenes are really good. But sadly, you really can't see it, because these are some of the producers from the Bourne franchise and some of the people who shot the film. It's a lot of shaky cam. At times, you can't even see what the action is actually happening. And Simon Kimber, coming off his directorial debut in Dark Phoenix, Jessica Chastain, who also produced the film, is the one who forced the studio to have him direct the film. Big misfire. He has really struggled as a director. I think this film is a lot worse than Dark Phoenix. So the 355, just not a good way to start 2022. Number 6 is Hotel Transylvania 4, Transformania, exclusively on Amazon Prime. Just a meh experience for me on Amazon Prime. I do think this is an improvement over the third film, but still does not come close, definitely not come close to the original. And I still think the second one is stronger than this. Again, a fun enough film where you have Dracula turning, the plot itself is kind of fun, how the monsters are turning into humans and the humans are turning into monsters, which leaves Dracula kind of out in the open and Johnny being a monster. And then their relationship is definitely one of the centerpieces of the franchise with Mavis. But I just didn't have enough fun. Even Brian Hull, who replaced Adam Sandler in the film, did a pretty solid job replacing him. wasn't too distracting. I just didn't find this film as intriguing as the other films. It's very cliche. Some of the side characters just feel totally unnecessary into the film. And again, I do love a lot more time spent in the hotel. This is the second straight movie where basically the majority of the film does not take place in the hotel. And it's kind of getting old of Dracula continually not trusting his son-in-law. It is getting a bit old, and can kind of tell the story of this franchise is definitely running out of steam. And it just does not feel as fresh as the original from 10 years ago. But I had a fun enough time. These are fun characters that I like. And just a harmless animated film on Amazon Prime. To number 5 on this list is a 2021 release for some people at festivals, but a 2022 release for me, and that is The Tender Bar, also Amazon Prime, which is getting Ben Affleck, tons of nominations, including SAG and Golden Globes. Directed by George Clooney, based off a true story, off a memoir. Ben Affleck, I am not the biggest Ben Affleck fan, but this is definitely one of the best performances of his career. It's a really fantastic performance that absolutely steals this entire film, and I think garners him a good chance to get into the Oscars for Best Supporting Actor. It's a really great performance and also a really great character to the film. The young actor who plays young JR also did a fabulous job in the film. But this is just a memoir that just isn't that compelling for a feature-length movie. It doesn't seem like a once-in-a-lifetime type story about this kid living with his family, all of his family members living in one household, him being very poor, but then going to, I think it's Yale. I could be totally wrong. And it's just a story that isn't that interesting. I think the first half of the movie is so much better than the second half. The first half is kind of okay and interesting. The second half, which is sadly led by Ty Sheridan. Ty Sheridan is good in the movie, has a whole subplot with this girl that he likes, and that goes on for way too long. And the film just drags. And because of the memoir itself isn't that interesting, some really great direction could have elevated this film to being a good movie. But I thought Clooney, it was too bland of a movie. Even though Ben Affleck steals every scene, I just wish it could have been a lot better than it was. It really did not a great memoir to really tell about. Another film that came out in 2021 in theaters, but officially came out on Apple TV Plus in 2022 is, I'm trying to find it, and that is The Tragedy of Macbeth. I think I took off my thing here. I'll put it back on in just a second, but The Tragedy of Macbeth is my number 4. Actually, I'll just keep this up. Tragedy of Macbeth is number 4 for me. A Shakespeare film that just didn't do it for me all the way. I think it's a really well-made movie from Joel Coen. Definitely Oscar award nominated performances or worthiness from definitely Denzel Washington and Frances McDormand, who are both equally Denzel Washington has a couple monologues that are really fantastic in this film. Frances McDormand is also really good, but I'm just not the biggest Shakespeare guy into movies, and it just didn't hit the nail on the coffin there with. It just didn't come off. It was a boring experience for me. It was a really well-made movie, and you can't deny that it's an above average film, which is why I gave it a 3 out of 5 stars, but it just is not for me. So really well acted, really well shot. The production design is fantastic and really well directed. Just the actual script and the screenplay, I was not intrigued at all in the story. Let's get into our great top 3 here. Number 3 is the Harry Potter special, the 20th anniversary of Return to Hogwarts. This does count as a feature-length film as well. So I didn't review this on the channel when it originally came out on New Year's. And based on my other peers in the critic circle, they were putting this on their list. So I will put it on my list. It is number 3. It was a really good time to see the Harry Potter cast back together, especially the big 3, seeing each other, getting people like Gary Oldman back and Helena Bonham Carter to do some interviews. I generally just had a really good time being back in the world and really the magic that it is crazy that we are 20 years removed from the first film in one of the biggest franchises of all time. And I thought they did a really good job the way organizing it, breaking down by movie, by director. I think they opened up some things showing Chris Columbus, how much he really had to do with these actors getting cast and really setting up the franchise, how Quran took it in a completely different direction. And just how this cast is a family. When you're this much together, seeing Radcliffe, Grant, and Watson back together was really, really great. My main issue is I wish they got more of the cast together. It seems like due to COVID, they were very limited to reunite. Basically, if another cast member had to show up, they basically just had Radcliffe go and have one-on-ones with Helena Bonham Carter or Gary Oldman. So I felt like due to COVID, they couldn't, I wish we got more of the cast interacting together. The most we got was basically the three of them on screen together, which was good. It could have been a touch more personal in the way they did the documentary of just the actors talking to the camera. It wasn't the smartest move, but I really did have a good time back in the Harry Potter world with this reunion special. Let's talk about this top two. Pretty hard. Number two for me is Scream. This is a great return to form for the Scream franchise. Just love, the first one is a horror classic that will stand the test of time in the horror genre. The sequel, extremely solid, really good sequel. 3 was definitely my least favorite, and 4 was okay. This was a great back to form for the Scream franchise, where they did a really good job, for the most part, balancing pretty much the main cast being the younger cast and including legends, the meta commentary on requels, as they say in the film, of reboots, bringing a new cast, but also doing a sequel to the 4 films with the big three coming back to this movie. Comes from the directors, the first time Wes Craven's not directing, but it comes from the directors of Ready or Not, which is a horror film I've seen multiple times and loved it every time. Really good young class led by Jenna Ortega, who I'm about to talk about in just a second, another movie. But Melissa Barrera does a good job in the lead. Jack Quaid, Mikey Madison, Dylan Minnette, Jasmine Savoy Brown, Mason Gooding, a really good young cast members. And I thought David Arquette was by far the strongest. Dewey had a lot to do, 10 times more to do than Gail and Sydney did in the film. The kills are also extremely violent. And this is a type of franchise that you kind of does make sense to bring back in 2022 because of how much horror has even changed since 10 years have passed since this one and the 4th film, and 25 years since this one and the original. So there's a lot more to do with meta, and they did a really good job of that by also including a lot of new characters that you care about. I said the kills were really fun. I just had a generally fun time being back in this franchise. A lot of fun Easter eggs for fans of the franchise, and also a film that you can probably watch if you haven't seen any of the other films as well. But one of my issues, again, is really the inclusion itself of Sydney and Gail compared to Dewey, who had a really firm, and Dewey had a really great scene with Gail. But Sydney just feels so unnecessary. She doesn't come into, like, I would say 70% of the into the film. Just they didn't really use Sydney and Gail in the strongest of ways. I don't think twist of who the killer or killers are was that fascinating. It was just like, okay, they're the killers, whatever. You kind of moved on because they do state really early in the film who the killers are. You're sort of like, is it that predictable? A touch too predictable on who the actual killers are. But I really did have a great job watching, a really great fun time watching Scream. So happy the franchise is back. And I would be happy to see this franchise continue down the line. But coming in first place for me on this list is The Fallout, which I just reviewed on HBO Max, a great film that I even bumped up since my last time reviewing it from a 4 to 4.5 out of 5. I love this movie, but it's a very tough film to watch about a school tragedy happens, and Veda, who's the main character, who's played by Jenna Ortega, who stole one of my favorite part of the new cast in Scream, also is an Oscar award worthy, in my opinion, performance, showing a great authentic performance as a child going to high school when a school tragedy happens, and how she reacts to the school tragedy and how she reacts to the other people around her. That means her family, her friends, about the situation, meeting her new friend who's played by Mia, played by Maddie Ziegler, was a really good performance by her. Niles Fitch, who plays another new friend who she got out of this tragedy, Niles Fitch, also solid performances from the parents, Julie Bowen and John Ortiz. But the film that really hit me emotionally, I didn't cry, but it really touched me because it just felt like a real thing. I don't want to get into what the tragedy is itself, but it's a film that really takes its time at establishing how this, and it feels just like a real people going through this tragedy. I also think it educates a lot of people who think they know how they would handle themselves in this situation, and how countries and schools and districts and states should be handling this issue going forward, because it really shows what the kids have to deal with. Yes, it's about these type of laws, but what the kids have to take with them 5 minutes happen and it changes their entire lives. A really emotional film that, yes, is fun and quirky at times, but is so dramatic and depressing in a really authentic way that makes you really care for this Veda character, because everything she does, you can see a real person do. Jenna Ortega is fantastic in this movie. And sometimes the tones don't always clash between going from a quirky, fun scene to a pretty depressing film. Sometimes it doesn't always clash. But other than that, I loved this film on HBO Max. It really hit me in the right way. Someone who's been going to school for, over a decade and really having these thoughts in my back of my head for my entire life. Thankfully, I haven't experienced anything like this before. Hopefully, I never will my next 2 years in college. But I love this movie, and I hope you guys check it out on HBO Max. This movie needs more buzz around it. So that's my thoughts on my ranking of the January movies. Thanks for joining me on this video. Please like, subscribe. 2 videos are coming out tomorrow: Euphoria and box office breakdown shows, including Boba Fett also on Wednesday. And on Wednesday, Thursday will be Peacemaker and Jackass Forever. Friday will be Moonfall. So a lot of videos coming down the line. I'll see you guys soon.